Hopefully the microphone is
Getting harder. Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Clear in the back? All right, great. So I'm Carol Webb. I'm the city administrator for Marshalltown. I've met some of you. Today is the first time I'll meet a few of you. So I just want to thank you for coming. I'm just going to kick us off here before we get into our presentation. We'll share some information with all of you, and then we want to get feedback from you. So the main purpose of tonight's meeting is to really hear from you as stakeholders in the downtown about how we can assist you, what your needs are, what your concerns are, so that we can plan both the project, the physical project, as well as any marketing, outreach, all of those kinds of things that you need to support your business through construction. And it's not, it's not something that we're gonna say, hey, you're not gonna run into any challenges. You're definitely gonna run into challenges, but the team that we've assembled here, both with our consultant, our contractor, the Chamber of Commerce, the Central Business District, and the city, we're all working together, and we'll work very hard to make sure that you are well supported during this process. So we'll go ahead and get started. We've got some information to share with you, and then we'll get some feedback. Who's going next? Heather?
Hello, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming tonight. Great turnout, really appreciate it. So I'm just gonna go over a couple of housekeeping items quick. The air is on. It's getting a little bit warm in here, so we're hoping that kicks in here and kind of cools us off a little bit. Anybody that needs a restroom, they're just outside the hall. You can go out any of these doors and they are out there. We know there's a couple of other activities going on tonight. I think Live on Stage, United Way has a fundraiser at Culver's, so anybody that needs to leave early, feel free to do so. Feel free to reach out to me or any of us after the meeting for anything, questions, follow-up. We would appreciate that. As you came in, there were a couple of items out on the table. One is an interest survey card. These are intended if you're a building property owner downtown, or if you're a tenant that does property maintenance. At the part of the presentation tonight, we're gonna be talking through an expanded grant opportunity for businesses downtown, and we'd like your interest and feedback. On the back of these, there's feedback. For those that do not own property, we appreciate you coming as well, and we have another form that you guys can submit your feedback. We'll have a bucket out here on the table as you leave. We also have a couple of other items and tips. MCBD put a couple of items together to increase your social media reach, and also some tips to increase customer loyalty as you're going into construction. So if you didn't grab those, they'll be on the table on your way out. And then also I would like to introduce Esmeralda. Esmeralda works with Public Works and is here for anybody who would like to talk in Spanish. We can provide that translation for you as well. I know we've got a couple people in the back that she'll be sitting back with. So please reach out if you have questions. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bolton & Mink.
Thanks, Heather. My name is Greg Broussard. I'm a principal engineer with Bolton & Mink. So we're working with the city and we're helping lead the design for all of Main Street. So what I want to do today is just start some discussion in regards to construction for Main Street. So real quick, want to go over the agenda for today, what we're going to be covering. So we're going to go over, one, why are we here? What is the purpose of the meeting? What's our project overview? Let's talk about our project schedule, the phasing, construction process, and then at the end we'll get into some of what Heather and was talking about there for the business support and how we can support you guys. And that's really what we want to get after tonight. As we look at the purpose of this meeting, so the meeting for us is we need to give you information. We need to tell you where we're at with our schedule, what we're thinking about for phasing, and what we need from you is we really need to be able to hear feedback from you. We want to discuss what impacts you see that construction may have. How can we help alleviate those and really be able to help answer questions that you may have about the construction process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through kind of a little bit of background and then kind of start to go forward. There we go. And that screen wasn't changing, so I wanted to make sure they were changing. So let's start with the project overview. So the very top line there is the lighter green, that's State Street. That we opened all of State Street today, so which was fantastic. And so the one piece of State Street that's still closed is the blue parking lot across the street from City Hall. And then we have our project that we're really talking about tonight. We're doing 2 blocks of Center Street. We're going to do Center Street from State to Church, and then we've got 3 blocks of Main Street from Center all the way over to Highway 14. So you may have a question of what's included with this project. What are we doing? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing full street reconstruction, brand new pavement on the entire roadway. We're going to be doing brand new utilities, which will include new water main and new storm sewer. I'll get into those a little bit later. We're going to have new streetscape amenities. We're going to have some pavers. We're going to have some street trees, site furnishing, a really cool gateway monument arch, and then expanded roadway lighting. We're going to increase pedestrian lighting as well throughout the corridor. And then really looking at expanded parking throughout the corridor and how can we gain more parking stalls, and going to be doing that through both parallel and some back end angle parking. So as we look at the schedule and where we've been and where we're going. So this project really started in 2019 when the city completed the overall downtown master plan. Then we kind of transitioned in 2020 to the implementation plan. How do we actually develop and build what our vision is for it? Went into design in 22, kind of went through a 2-year design process. And now we're really towards the end of that design process. We're really getting kind of the nuts and bolts ironed out and getting ready for the next step. And the next step is really to go to bidding, which we're hoping will be early 25, and then starting construction next spring. So one of the thing that we're going to spend a lot of time on is phasing. What does this project look like? How are we going to build it? And so kind of what we're going to be starting with, we're looking at 3 major phases for our project. We're anticipating the project is going to take 2 years. It'll take all of 25 and all of 26. So that way we're kind of clear up at the front. We do anticipate this to be a 2-year project. So what's going to happen year 1 and what's going to happen year 2? So the very first thing we're going to start with is the 2 blocks of Center Street. So that is kind of the bluish hatch on the left side. So we're going to shut down those 2 blocks of Center Street, and then we're going to let our contractor go to work on that. Then during that after that phase, then we're going to go, and in the same year, so in 25, we're going to go ahead and do the Main Street block, which is the orange. We're going to do the area between the intersections. And then as we go to year 2, so 2026, we're going to do the remainder of the project, so essentially from First Ave all the way to Third Ave. We're going to have that broken up with a initial subphase. The intersection for First Ave is the very first thing that contractor has to do. They can take down or start to remove pavement in the whole block and both blocks, but they have to get that intersection opened up as fast as they can. So that's going to be their priority, because we don't want to have 2 intersections down all summer. We only want a short period of time where First Street's down, and then we'll continue on. So yeah, once again, just to kind of set expectations up front, we do anticipate a 2-year construction process. So a couple of things as we start to look at this. One of the things that's always a concern on the front of our minds is parking during a project like this. How do people park, and how do they start to get around? So the yellow highlights are shown city parking lots that are adjacent to it. So one of the things is people won't be able to park if you're directly impacted by that phase or that portion of construction. We're going to have to figure out how to market. How do we let your customers, your residents, know where to park and how to get to different places? For kind of a reference, the parking lot that's closed across the street right now, across from City Hall, that parking lot has about 77 stalls. During no single phase will we close more than that. Every single phase will actually lose less parking stalls because of how many stalls are in that individual phase. Some of the other things we're going to be looking at, for example, when we look at Center Street, when we do that first phase, we're going to have 2 dead-end roads because the intersection of Main and Center will be closed. So if you're coming from Main Street on the east, you're going to run into a barricade. And if you're coming from Main Street on the west, you're gonna run into barricades at Center Street. We're planning for that. We know that's gonna happen, so let's set that up to allow traffic to move and rotate properly. We may have to block off a couple of parking stalls there to allow a full U-turn. We're gonna be marking no parking there. And then the other thing that we're gonna be doing is looking at where to locate additional ADA stalls, knowing that there's people that are gonna have to walk because that block is closed. Where do we put ADA stalls and how do we provide access to everybody as easy as possible? Some other things that we're looking at doing, there are a couple of kind of red arrows. There's kind of 3 of them on the map in each phase. What those are gonna be looking at is how do we get pedestrians across the street during construction? So we're gonna be looking at putting in temporary gravel paths that will be able to allow pedestrian access back and forth. And we kind of tried to line those up based on the city parking lots. So that way they can start to use those parking lots, get to those access points. So those gravel paths, they may have to be taken out for a day, put back as the contractor's doing utilities and stuff like that. But that's the general approach for that. So let's talk through how we're actually gonna build this. So the important thing that we wanna do is we wanna maintain access to everybody's business as much as possible. So these are pictures from a project in Indianola that we did that was a downtown streetscape to kind of give a reference. And so what our plan is if you imagine when you walk out of your building, what you're gonna walk out and there's gonna be a fence about 6 foot in front of you. And that fence is gonna run the entire length of the property. So we're gonna have a pedestrian path that pedestrians, they can park on the ends of the block and then they can walk and get to every one of your businesses. And that, whether it be a fence like we showed here or some sort of barrier, we're not sure what that is, but there will be a barrier there. And what we'll do is we'll give the contractor, we'll tell him, okay, you can work in between those fences. You can tear your road out, you can do all your utilities. They can do tons and tons of work while we're still able to maintain access to these businesses, which is the most critical thing for us. We want to make sure that that everybody is able to get into their business as much as possible and able to function. So one of the things that we also know about construction as we start to think about those entrances and what those are gonna look like, construction is not a clean process. We know it's gonna be dusty. We know there's gonna be a lot of dust in the air and some extra debris. And so one of the things that the city learned through their process with their entrances is even just having extra rugs, being able to have an extra carpet when people walk in starts to protect your flooring a little bit. Maybe it's a couple extra vacuuming, maybe a shoe cleaner. There's some stuff through that we just have to all work together because we have to understand that it is going to be dusty and we have to be able to, we'll be working with our contractor to wet that down as we need, but there's only so much that we can do and we know there's going to be some. So what I wanted to do was, I know that the idea of reconstruction is not fun, and we heard a lot of questions during State Street of why is it taking so long? What's actually going on? Why does it feel like they're digging in the same place 3 times? Because sometimes they do because of the different process. So what I want to do is kind of walk through a little bit of the construction process. I'm going to do a high level overview so that way we can keep moving. I could talk forever about construction, but I'm going to limit that. So the very first thing we'll do, we'll come in, we'll have those fences up. Our contractor will take all the pavement out. Then we're going to look at water main. And the thing to think about, the water main that's in the ground on Main Street is older than everybody in this room. That water main is 100+ years old. It has reached its life expectancy and needs to be replaced. So that's the very first thing we'll be doing is really looking at that water main. So as an example, on just a quick reference back to State Street, so on parts of State Street, we actually had 3 water mains that we had to work around, ranging in size from 4-inch to 16-inch. And the contractor has to be able to put that new line in and keep all those existing lines live and active. So what I want to do is just graphically kind of show you what that looks like and how we do that for a water main system, specifically looking at Main Street. The nice part about Main Street is we have 1 water main, we don't have 3 existing. So we have a little less to work around. But the first thing to think about is if you're a water valve and you've been in the ground for 100+ years, covered in dirt, are you going to work? we don't know. We're hoping you work, but we need to be prepared if stuff doesn't work, which means specialty processes that allow us to be able to connect to that existing water main and keep stuff going. So this is kind of an overview of our project. And so what I'm gonna quick do is there will be some stuff that pop up. So the first thing, the yellow dot, we have to connect to the existing. That'll take a couple of days because we have a specialty tool because if that valve doesn't work. Then over the course of the next couple of weeks, a contractor has to put all the brand new water main in while avoiding all the existing water main, the existing storm sewer, all those items to be able to put that in. Once that's in, then we have to make a connection to the existing water main on the other side. So does that valve turn? Okay, we're probably gonna need that specialty company to come in and make that connection again. Then we have our water main in, and then we have to test it. We have to make sure that water's clean, that we want people drinking safe and clean water. But obviously we were just in a mud hole, or we were in a ditch. So we have to make sure that water's clean and safe. So that takes 3 or 4 days for that testing to go through. And during those 3 or 4 days, it may seem like nothing's going on because we're waiting for test results to come back. Let's say we get those test results back, everything passed, we're nice and clean. Then what we have to start doing, and they're kind of hard to show up, but there's some kind of these green lines. Our contractor has to put all of these different services to all the buildings back in every block. On a good day, we could get 2 services in a day. If it's a hard service, lots of issues, maybe 1. So that takes time as we start to look at that. So now we've got the new water main in, all the services done. Now we have to think about how do we address that old water main. We still need to take it out. It's still running, it's still active. 2 more of those specialty potential connections because who knows if those valves are gonna turn. And then the red, then our contractor has to go through and remove all that water main. So just wanted to kind of briefly highlight how long that takes for the water main. So next process, water main's in, then we're going to storm sewer. Storm sewer should go a lot faster just because it's pretty easy and straight digging, but one of the things that we're gonna be doing is expanding storm sewer. If you drive downtown, one of the things, there's not a lot of storm sewer, there's not a lot of intakes and capacity. So we're gonna be increasing that and providing additional drainage paths for stormwater. As we start to talk about stormwater, really wanna talk about sump pumps as well. So when we remove the pavement, obviously now we've got soil exposed. Let's say it rains, that water is gonna go into that soil and slowly start to work its way down. And if we get a really heavy rain, that's gonna get to your sump pump. So as business owners, that's one thing we wanna talk about is, 1, do you have a sump pump? Have you checked it? Is it running? We wanna make sure that we've looked at those things ahead of construction because we're anticipating additional increased use of sump pumps during that construction if we get into a wet period. We had sometimes on State Street where I think we had 36 days of rain this spring, which was an astronomical amount of rain compared to a normal year, and people's sump pumps were running. So that's one of the things that we're gonna wanna talk with people about is, do you have a sump pump? Where's it connected to? We wanna make sure we're getting that connection point. I've been in a lot of basements, almost all the basements, and so we've got a lot of that documentation. Just wanna have a conversation to make sure if you have one and I missed it, I need to know. But we've been in all of them and looked at all that stuff. So then, once we do the storm sewer, we've done the water main, there's still some underground utilities. Maybe there are footing drains. Maybe we need to actually start to make some of the connections for the water services. During those times, this will be one of the first times you as a business owner could potentially see a business access closure. Because if your water service for your building comes in right under your front door, we can't replace that unless we impact the front door. But that'll be minimal impact and we'll be coordinating with you ahead of time to figure out how that looks, how that's gonna go. But once again, if it doesn't impact your business, you will have access to it. After we get done with that, we want you to keep access. So this is a picture from Parks and Rec, actually just downstairs. We had to make a connection into Parks and Rec after we got done. The contractor gravelled that back up and the sidewalk was opened back up. So once we make that utility connection, we're gonna put that fence back and get that gravel access path set there so that way you continue to access your building. So once we've done all the underground stuff, now what we really gotta do is we gotta start to get to see actually some progress, because we've seen a lot of stuff underground that once it goes underground, you never see it again. Next is we really start to think about, let's put the road in. Let's start to set paving. Our contractor is going to start grading the dirt, put his rock down, and start to set concrete and bring the steel in that we need. On the day we're paving, you're going to see a lot of activity. You're going to see a lot of concrete trucks, a lot of concrete crews, and that's one of the other things throughout the process that we want to do is work with the contractor, because they're going to have equipment, they're going to have stockpiles. Where does that stuff go? How do we maintain those areas to not impact businesses? And then one of the other things, on a poor day, we could have as many as 30 people there. Where are they going to park? Making sure we're coordinating with the contractor to tell their staff, park way far away or carpool in, so you're not taking up downtown business parking stalls. And there's been many mornings when, I know Heather's done it and I've done it out here, where we've told the contractor, move, you're parked in spots where business owners need to be utilizing. So now the road's done. So now we're really going to start to go outside that road and look at that area adjacent to your building and start to figure out, how do we replace that sidewalk? So the potential slowest piece in this is really if we find vaults. So what a vault is an underground, essentially a room under your sidewalk that goes out into the building. We are aware of 5 of them on our project. I've been in every basement when we've looked at them, so we're actively tracking that ahead of time. But for those, our contractor is going to have to pull the top off, block in that wall going into the basement. We're going to waterproof that wall, and then we're going to have to backfill. That's going to take several days to be able to do each one of these vaults independently. So one of the things we want to talk through tonight is the idea of how can we work together and help communicate with everybody. So one of the things I wanted to talk through is, this is a good example of ways that property owners, through conversations, we could help speed up some of the construction. So this is Main Street. So on the left, you've got City Center, 16 East Main, and then the center building is the city's building, and then the next building is the Bowman building, which is 24. So both City Center and Bowman have large vaults under their sidewalks that we know we're going to have to deal with and address. So there's 2 different approaches we could take to this. If the property owner in the middle, let's say it wasn't the city, let's say it was a private business, and they said, hey, you know what? We have to have our front door. We have no access in the back. We'll say, okay, great. We'll deal that. We'll do 1 vault at a time. That way, when we're doing 1 vault, you can access from the east. When we're doing the other vault, you can have access from the west. The potential where we can try to start to think about ways to speed up construction and make things go faster is if that center or property owner says, you know what? I could have access from the back of my building. We're not asking people, we're not telling people they have to, we're just talking about options here. If they said, you know what, I can access from the back of my building, we could do both those vaults at the same time and shave at least a week or 2 off of the construction project just by coordinating that. So that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about tonight. Is there any opportunity for people to use rear access? If not, great, we'll accommodate that, and we've got solutions for it all. So then, once we get those vaults filled in, then we're going to start to pour those sidewalk. And this is really that second opportunity that we're going to see business owners as a short period of time when you won't have access. Obviously, the day before, when they're really prepping that sidewalk for you to get in there, our goal is to work with the contractor and have essentially a little bridge that'll get over that prepped area to keep access. The next morning, when we pour that concrete, we'll have to obviously not have access to it. And that'll be for about a day. And then after that, we'll open it back up. We'll start to direct pedestrian traffic to you. And one of the things here you can notice is that we're not doing a whole block of sidewalk at once. We're going to do it in phases. So that way we're going to limit the amount of impact at a time. We really want to maintain access and keeping everybody open as much as possible. So at the end of the day, we know construction is tough. We know it's going to take time and it's not going to be fun. But what we want to think about is how do we get past that, and how do we get to the end of the project? How do we get to a product that's going to look great, that's going to be something Marshalltown can be proud of? It's going to start to draw people to downtown and encourage growth. And so one of the things that we want to do is I'm going to hand it over to Deb and John to really talk through how the city can help support the businesses during construction and be able to be a help for them as well. I'm going to change the presentation and give me 1 second.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Greg. While you transition that presentation, I just wanted to iterate on a couple of things that Greg mentioned. And first, for those that don't know me, I'm John Hall. I serve as President and CEO of the Marshalltown Area Chamber of Commerce. And Deb Millizer, who's in the front here, serves as Executive Director of the Marshalltown Central Business District. We're working collaboratively on how to address business support needs. These are a lot of lessons learned from navigating the State Street project and some of the challenges that were realized there. But we're hopeful that we can help navigate through this. And Greg mentioned access being very important, and I think that's important to continue to reiterate, is that front door access is going to be maintained and available other than brief periods of time where we'll need to coordinate closures in order to allow the project to move forward. I think that was a big anxiety for a lot of folks, something that we heard a lot of feedback on, and so something that we were able to make sure was accommodated as a component of this project. So as we dive into the business support resources, what I want to make clear is that this is a collaborative effort. This is not any one individual organization that is leading this, but this is a partnership between the chamber, the MCBD, and the city, specifically to address this. And this is going to be challenging. We know full well that a Main Street reconstruction is a challenging process. It will be a tough 2 years, but you think about the investment that's being asked to be made. This is a generational investment into our downtown. This is infrastructure that's over 100 years old that we're asking to replace and hopefully get another 100 years out of. And so the 2 years that we're going to navigate through this phase of the reconstruction will be challenging, but hopefully we can navigate through, because on the other side, we know, not even anecdotally, but we know with metrics that the return on investment to you as business owners is tremendous. So 3 areas that we're going to really focus on when it comes to our business support resources. So first is communication, and that is communication not only with you all as building and business owners, but also information to the public. The second is engagement. So this is opportunities for building and business owners to step out of their business or take some deliberate actions to engage in additional ways for additional resources. And then the third is direct marketing support for our businesses. I do think it's worthy of noting that a lot of this is going to require action as on you as business owners to take some steps in order to engage on this. If your sole effort is going to rely on those of us that are at the front of the room in order to support your business, we're not going to be able to deploy necessary resources. And that's why Deb has put together the handouts that she has. Is this is going to take a little bit of work on your guys' end as well. And what we're going to present in the next few slides is not designed to be all-encompassing, but is starting points for us. We want to hear ideas and perspectives about how you would like to find unique ways to promote your business and building, and we want to dive into those. So those are all going to be components that we want to address. So the first piece is communication. So weekly update emails. So this is going to be an email that you can reliably count on will be in your inbox every week. With progress from the past week and expectations for the upcoming week. There's a QR code to sign up. There's a website link. We will be broadcasting this a lot more, and you'll hear a little bit about the timeline on when all of this will start in the next page with the branding piece as it relates to this. So the next piece is development of a construction brand, and I'll have Deb share a little bit about what that might look like.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am so happy to see so many people here at this meeting tonight. I know it's warm in here. We can pretend it's a summer evening. I don't know, but and be happy that I'm not singing karaoke, that I'm talking about this. But I want to say that it's going to be very important that we are giving a positive message a very positive message as we go through this transformation. And one of those pieces that we're going to do is we are working with Main Street Iowa. So that's, Marshalltown has been a Main Street community for 22 years. So due to that, we have some resources that are available to us through the Iowa Economic Development Authority. And one of those is a branding package. So we are meeting with Main Street Iowa in December, and we are going to be working on a branding package that will be available for us to use to help direct traffic downtown, to really brand this, have fun with it, make people want to come down here. So we're going to work on that in December, and we should have that brand package done by probably the end of January, and be able to start rolling out some of this that is more specifically branded. So I want to give the message that we are all proactively working here for you, because we want you to be here, we want you to be successful, and so we're glad you're here tonight, and we look forward to your feedback.
Perfect, thank you, Deb. So the communications on weekly emails will start after we have all the branding locked in place, and as we gear towards construction actually beginning in 2025. Additionally, on the communications, we're going to have a dedicated social media page that will be under that construction brand. So think of that construction brand as a long-term marketing effort for all the reconstruction that's going to happen downtown, as a way to build some brand awareness about where this is happening at and what the impact looks like. But we will have a dedicated social media page where social media posts will be going 2 to 3 times a week. The intention is, the voice is to be a little bit lighthearted with it, that we want to try to engage the community in a way that makes it feel like coming downtown is accessible, and not that it's a bunch of big scary equipment and everything's falling apart. So we want it to be a little bit more lighthearted as a way to invite people down. And then there will be some additional sharing of those social media posts by the Chamber and MCBD and the city. We're going to do a monthly progress segment in the Chamber's Digest. So if you're an existing Chamber member, you get a copy of the Digest mailed to you every month. Any subscribers to the Times Republican also get a copy of the Digest every month. And so it'll be a larger monthly feature on kind of what's transpired in the downtown. There's going to be a dedicated construction website. So this is where all the updates, so every weekly email, every larger monthly segment, all plans and information regarding the construction will be on that website. The URL that we'll utilize will be crafted when we know what our construction brand is going to look like. So we'll have a dedicated construction website. Signage at intersections to try to drive pedestrians towards your businesses as they get parked. We'll do some work around how we make sure people know where to park, and then how do you make sure you know how to traverse to your business. We're going to develop some branded items around this, this construction brand. Again, we need to find some opportunities to provide some levity within this, but also build a marketed brand around the construction. And then we're going to do some dedicated access promotions. So think about things like Instagram Reels or Facebook Lives or TikToks that will show how to park somewhere and how to get to a business. Again, trying to break down that barrier and stigma that everything happening downtown is really big and scary and it's hard to get to stuff, but really showcasing that, it might only be 45 steps from where you can park to the front door of a business, but it doesn't look like it had in the past. The second piece of this is engagement. So the first item that we want to do is a panel discussion. So this is when we're going to be bringing in some business owners that have navigated through this from other communities. This is going to be your opportunity as business owners to hear directly from folks, to ask questions about how they navigated what they navigated, and to get some more candid feedback from folks that have, one, been through it, but two, been through it as business owners. Because again, the group of us standing up here, it's a very different perspective than those that we'll be able to bring in and have them share their experiences. We're also then going to have dedicated business building owner office hours. So this will be a time where Deb, myself, and city representation will be available. We're working on what the exact cadence will look like with that, but we'll make sure we broadcast that time. But that'll be dedicated time that that you can access all of us at the same time about any challenges or concerns that you've got as it relates to the project. And then we're going to be doing dedicated business posters. So these 11 by 17 posters will be generated for each business individually. It'll have information about how to find more about what's going on within the construction, but also will highlight exactly how people might be able to get to your business. So the intention with those is they will go up before construction starts in front of your business, so that as you have customers coming and going, they can quickly see, okay, when it starts, this is where I should park to be able to make sure I maintain access. And then the final element is the marketing support pieces. So these first two are outside of partnership with the city, because this is very, very business specific. So dedicated social media blasts will be happening from both the chamber and the MCBD for all affected businesses. And one thing that's worth noting that Deb made sure to reiterate with me as well is that from a chamber perspective, it does not matter whether you're a chamber member or not. Any affected business or building, we want to make sure that we are supporting and highlighting in whatever way we can. And so there's not going to be a paywall for access to resources as it relates to our downtown rebuild, because this is the right thing to do. And so we will be doing dedicated social media blasts. The chamber will do a monthly email promotion where we will assemble any information or updates or promotions or specials from any businesses in the affected area, and do a once a month email blast to all of our chamber member businesses. Again, keeping front of mind the need to support our downtown businesses. Events, we're already talking about a series of events that we aim to host. We've got some examples of potential events for downtown, but trying to, again, break down that accessibility stigma and find opportunities to bring people down. And then finally, at the end, we're going to do a really big celebration that we made it through. And you know, we'll find the opportunity to celebrate that. I'm sure there will be lessons learned that we'll have to help us for the next phase on this, but really this is the opportunity to then invite everybody back down to see what we have all navigated through and what we're able to collectively celebrate as a community. MCBD? I don't remember the order, I think.
It's me again, and I'm still not singing karaoke. So, as I said earlier, you know, we're really trying to take a proactive approach to all of this because all of you really matter. The downtown is the heart of the community, and if you don't thrive, the rest of the community has a difficult time thriving as well. So I know that sometimes it seemed like there's been kind of a little bit of a void of information, but it's not because we're not working on things, because we've been working on things behind the scenes for quite some time. One of the things that we have been working on behind the scenes is, and some of you may be familiar with this, but currently the MCBD has a partnership with the city of Marshalltown for a couple of grants that we facilitate in the downtown. One is a facade incentive grant, and the other one is a city code upgrade grant. Traditionally, the city code upgrade grant has been utilized for fire suppression systems. Upgrades. The grant started in 2006, so it's been around for a day or two. And the City Code Upgrade Grant is created to help bring vibrancy to underutilized spaces. So the city and the MCBD met, and we talked about how we could utilize that City Code Upgrade Grant to help in this process as well. And through that conversation, we talked about adding ADA accessibility as part of this grant. So we're thinking about that. It's inclusive of who we are marketing to for the downtown, our availability. And even though we're not closing off, your main access, the front of your business until we absolutely have to for a shortest period of time, there might be some businesses that may benefit from being able to have ADA accessibility on the rear of their business. This also will help with, bathrooms, things like that. So as part of the city code upgrade grant. We have proposed to city council and we're still going through the steps. We would like to add that as part of the availability through that city code upgrade grant. So currently through the city code upgrade grant, it is reimbursable up to $20,000, 25% of the total expense up to $20,000. So this is a great opportunity. Once we get this all through the city council, which by the way, although there's not a final vote yet, they were very supportive of this. They want to see everybody be successful and have access to buildings, to your businesses. So that is one thing that we're working on, which I believe you created a card for that as well, if there's an interest for that. So there was a card when you pick that up. So if you have an interest in that, please fill that out and drop it into the place outside there. But the other grant that we are working on is called a safety and security grant. And this comes from feedback. We have heard from a few downtown building and business owners that sometimes the rear access of the building does not feel safe, that it's a little dark. We're in Iowa, it's gonna be getting dark here real soon. So we wanted to make something available to help with that as well. And we're gonna need to use our alleyways a little bit more. So the safety and security grant will help with adding alleyway lighting. So of course there's some standards and some specs that have to come along with that. We're also offering as part of that a security camera grant process. So a little proactiveness goes a long way. And then also we're adding the ability to enclose your refuse containers so that we can, put some fencing around there. I know I've had a couple businesses share with me that if they needed to use their rear access, they didn't want people walking by their trash bins to come in. But also when we're thinking about those three opportunities there, frequently, we talk about refuse blowing around in the downtown. If we're able to enclose those, that will help with that. Increased lighting, that will take some things out of the shadows. We'll be able to see better when we're walking through those alleyways if we need to use those. And then also with the security cameras, those cameras they're not connected to the police department. I know that was a concern when I talked at city council. They will be your camera system. We would just ask that if something were to happen in the downtown, that you make that footage available to the police so that, we can take care of that. We're all a neighborhood. We all care about our neighbors. So of course we want to take care of that. So we have not ironed out the full details on this yet. This is just preliminary, so don't hold me to these numbers here. But the things that we're looking at is each of these subcategories as far as lighting, security cameras, or the refuse, I want to say fencing because that's the simplest way to put that. They are at the conversation right now. That may change because city council said they wanted to see us do a little bit more, change it up a little bit. So right now how we have it set up is that the city would reimburse 50% up to $5,000 on each of those three subcategories with a max of $7,500. And this would be eligible to be applied for, or the max would be available like a 5-year period. You couldn't reapply again for it for the next 5 years. Now, those details are not final, but it's an example of some of the things that the city and the MCBD are working on to think about if you do have to use your rear access, or if you just want to increase your safety and security around your business, because perception is our reality. So we want to make that better for you. Is there any other points that you'd like from me? All right, Heather is giving me the thumbs up. And again, I think she thinks I'm going to sing karaoke. So with that, I'm going to hand it off.
Okay, that concludes our formalness of this evening. So if you guys need to leave, feel free to. The chamber also has some water, cookies. I think I see chocolate also. Please help yourself. We're gonna break into maybe some smaller areas. We appreciate all of your time, but there's a lot of you. We'd like to give you an opportunity to provide us feedback. So we're gonna break into a couple areas along the sides of the room so that a couple teams can talk to you. You guys can ask questions, share your ideas and everything. We'll see how much feedback there is, and if people are still sitting around, we might come back to the front and share ideas that other business owners have. So again, thank you for coming tonight. We'll have people along the side of the room. Please provide feedback to us, and thank you.
I have a question. Marching on both sides?
And that project. And we'll have Monday. Yes.